And now we started with kind of Mr. Smart Grid Sweden, and we finalized with the Mr. Smart Grid India. Mr. Reji Pillai.
Mr. Linkstone, Madam Ambassador, experts on the dais, experts in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me joy unspeakable to be here at India Unlimited. I start with complimenting Madam Ambassador and Mr. Malhotra for putting together a great platform. All compliments. And thank you for inviting me. I represent India Smart Grid Forum, which is a public-private partnership initiative of Ministry of Power, Government of India, for accelerated development of smart grids. Our mandate is to assist ministries, state governments, utilities, regulatory commissions in formulating appropriate policies and programs for faster development of smart grids. Why smart grids for India? As most of you know, the biggest human effort in 20th century, besides the two World Wars, was in electrification. Massive countrywide electrifications have seen millions of man years spent in 20th century. Most countries, advanced nations, were successful in giving 24/7 electricity to their complete citizens by middle of the last century. Even India got freedom in 1947. We had only 1,360 megawatt of electricity generation capacity. The electric grid was limited only to few industrial towns and some of the capitals of princely states. Rest of India lived in darkness. 7 decades down the line, we did impressive growth, very impressive growth if you only look at numbers from one perspective. Today we operate one of the largest grids in the world with 290,000 megawatt capacity. We have almost 1 billion people connected to the grid, or 250 million customers officially. And one grid covering about 3 million square kilometers. It's one of the largest synchronous grid in the world. And it is also growing at 8 to 9% per year in terms of capacity, in terms of customers. But from the other side, if you look at it, 300 million people still not connected to the grid. 56 million households by last survey. And 1 billion people who are connected, majority of them experience several hours of power cut almost every day. So in short, most of India still live in darkness. And our per capita power consumption is 1/4 of the world average. And all proven economic models have demonstrated to pull people out of poverty. First, we have to pull them out of energy poverty. Pulling 1 billion people out of energy poverty is a huge task for which we need all the technology powers of the developed world. In 2002, the same NDA government launched a program, ambitious program, Power for All by 2007. In 5 years, they will complete electrification. And even at that time, almost 500,000 villages we had electrified. Rest of the country will be electrified and everybody will be given power connection by 2007. 2004, the next government came, UPA government. They shifted the target to 2010 and launched a new program called Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutkaran Yojana. Under that program, in last 10 years, 2004 to 2014, we spent about $7 billion, thousands of villages electrified, millions of homes connected, but unfortunately, most of them don't get even 1 hour of electricity supply every day. We spend billions of dollars, massive effort, but people don't get electricity. So, the new government which came to power in 2014, Mr. Modi, electricity is very close to his heart. As Chief Minister of Gujarat, a very successful village electrification program he has done by splitting the grid which goes to the habitation area where the people are there in the village, that gets 24/7 electricity. And the grid which goes to the agricultural and industrial area, they are rationed electricity subject to availability. That was a very successful program which he completed when he was Chief Minister there. He wanted, after becoming Prime Minister, one of the big promise he made was that in 5 years we will complete power for all, 24/7, not only power for all, 24/7 power for all by 2019. That is what we started with in 2014. We launched several targeted programs. The RGGY, the Rajiv Gandhi program, we renamed it as Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Jyotirgram Yojana something. Some $7 billion again allocated for that program. There is another program which was there, RAPDRP, which has been renamed as IPDS, another $5 billion given for that program. But after a year and a half into these programs, Ministry of Power has said that 2019 is not possible. We are shifting the date to 2022. It's a mirage. 2002, we said 2007. And even 2027, I would say, if we are able to do 24/7 electricity to everybody, it will be a great, great achievement. And for which, presently, all stakeholders are convinced that the traditional model of electrification never going to achieve that. We need to leapfrog by embracing emerging technologies. That is where we need your support, you need our collaboration. In India Smart Grid Forum, which I represent, is one such initiative from Ministry of Power to advise them about new technologies, how to take the knowledge from industry, academia, and research for program and policy formulation for electrification. We are operational for about 4 years now. On the policy side, government has done very credible work. In 2013, we issued a Smart Grid Vision and Roadmap for India. That's a government policy document. First time we talked about giving electricity rather than connecting more and more villages. That policy document said 8 to 12 hours of lifeline supply will be given to all the citizens in the country. The new government upgraded that to 24/7. Very honorable, but we need to work to achieve that. And after this roadmap which was issued, we had several stakeholder consultations for finalizing that roadmap. So generally, the opinion of the people was that it should not be run as a government program. It should be run as a mission. Like we have several missions. You just heard about from Mr. Menon about the solar mission. So there is a national smart grid mission which is approved by the cabinet last year, which is operational now. It has participation of all the stakeholders. And in the next round of projects which we'll be doing will be taken up by this mission. And another 2-3 important policy interventions been, we have a regulatory regime which is more like the United States. We have 29 state regulatory commissions, electricity regulatory commissions, and a federal electricity regulatory commission. We call them CERC, Central Electricity Regulatory Commission. Each of them need to issue some enabling regulations so that smart grid projects becomes viable. So we formulated a model smart grid regulations for India, which was approved by a statutory body which comprises of chairmen of all the regulatory commissions. That is finalized last year in July. So several states already started issuing their state-specific smart grid regulations. And another very important step we have been able to do is a standard. The Bureau of Indian Standards issued a national standard for smart meters. Indigenous smart meters, which will be made in India, which will be cheap. A 250 million smart metering program, which government is going to announce very soon. There are several brainstorming sessions. What should be the model in which we can roll out this 250 million smart meters in the next 5 to 10 years? You heard about the renewable energy program. Out of 27 state regulatory commissions already issued net metering policies. A customer who has a rooftop solar can inject electricity or sell electricity back into the grid. This happened in 2 years, 2013 to 2015. Except 2 small states in the northeast, most of India, there is a policy framework available for consumers to become prosumers. This is going to virally spread the rooftop PV. The 175,000 megawatt RE program which we are pursuing, 40,000 is envisaged to come from 20 million rooftops. So the Indian grid in the coming years, when millions of roofs injecting electricity into the grid, is entirely a different grid. It's a different engineering problem to manage, and which gives huge business opportunities. So areas where we could collaborate, looking into the microgrid. in the roadmap, we have emphasized 31,000 microgrid. There are some rationale to that number. Several of the villages which are so far from everywhere where the main grid will never go. Several of islands which you heard about the stories, microgrid for them. But biggest play of microgrid will be grid connected smart microgrids which can island from the main grid when needed, particularly in peak hours. We have 70,000 megawatt of large capacity DG sets which are used when there's a power cut or a load shedding. So we want to bring that into the main grid during peak hours so that the peak power shortage can be reduced or eliminated and everybody can be given electricity. Industrial parks, big campuses, commercial centers, hospitals, hotels, all of them have megawatt scale DG sets. You group them together in a locality, bring a smart microgrids, have some storage, have this DG sets which are there, and also rooftop PVs, convert them into smart microgrids which can interact with the grid. Electric vehicles which will be connected to this kind of smart microgrids will again act as a storage. So energy storage, electric vehicles, government has another mission. 6 to 7 million electric vehicles by 2020. It was launched in 2013 again, but last 3 years it has not taken off. But new government is very focused on promoting electric vehicles, at least in urban areas, as a sustainable method for reducing pollution. Our capital city where I live, Delhi, is today the most polluted city in the world. We have overtaken Beijing 2 years ago. Day after tomorrow, we have a workshop which Ministry of Power has called all stakeholders. In fact, ISGF is hosting what should be the model in which we'll create charging infrastructure, standards and business model for charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. If any of your colleagues are there, most welcome to join that. So, on the policy side, while we be doing all this advancement, our main challenge is in implementation when it comes to the ground level, which the distribution grid is owned by respective state governments, which are run by different combinations of political parties in different time frames. So it becomes extremely difficult to do certain things. What we want to do in 5 years, finally when we implement it becomes 10, 12. So people should have the patience to bear with that. So the biggest business opportunities is the 250 million smart metering program, where companies like Ericsson, the microgrids. Oh, I forgot to mention about the one model which we are advocating. That's we have 8,800 railway stations, great candidates for microgrids. We have kilometer-long platforms where solar panels can be put. Even the railway stations have fairly good capacity DG sets. They have good load, both on the road side as well as on the rail side, and club them together, and it is replicable. In fact, last Monday I had meetings with the ABB team in our office. So we'll be proposing to Ministry of Power and Ministry of Railways to do one representative microgrid, a railway station as the anchor, and the area around that become a microgrid. If we are able to do that successfully, we have 8,000 of them to be immediately replicated. Huge business opportunity. So energy storage, electric vehicles, microgrids, smart metering, the last mile connectivity, these are all very important, and you have proven technologies here. Like in other countries, I say bigger companies like Ericsson, ABB, they should be able to handhold smaller companies, the startups which have niche technologies, and come as consortium. We'll be able to give projects without going through the normal tendering routes, which Mr. Menon said about L1. So we understand there are frameworks. We'll be able to transcend those barriers and allocate projects for large consortiums which will come from Sweden. We'll be able to build business models. I'll be happy to help. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you.